Dean, I ask at coaching clinics, and you've probably been through it before. It's an exercise in awareness, and coaches writing down the name of their favorite coach and why, and having a discussion about it. So at the top of your heads, Dean, who's your favorite coach? All sports, your whole lifetime, and everybody else, think about that.
I think the first one that always jumps to mind was my dad, because parent would always have to volunteer to coach you in whatever, and so my dad always stepped up, because he came from a multi-sport background too, and he played hockey, he played rugby, he played baseball. There's so many things that he did, and so he was always, he was either volunteering or voluntold that he was going to coach, and so it didn't matter the sport, and then he took me out dirt biking and mountain biking and hiking, and I mean there's a lot of other you can also call them activities, like lifestyle activities, and so right through until bantam. He was always my coach for whatever sport I played. The only time, he didn't coach me in soccer. That was the only sport he didn't. Because we had a bunch of Dutch guys, and so they always really wanted to get in there and coach. Because I grew up in North Haven. Anyway, yeah. I mean, the reason I choose him, Wally, is he didn't know a lot of details, like technical and tactical, but he treated everybody fairly. And he was very ethical, and he was harder on me. He always told me, "Look, I'll coach you, but you don't get a get out of jail free card. In fact, it's going to be twice as hard for you. Like I'm going to have to be harder on you in order to make sure other people aren't going to accuse me of favoritism." And that's how it was. But he was always fair, firm but fair, and just. I think that growing up as a kid had a real big impact on me, and even though his knowledge of all these sports was general and it wasn't specific, because I know in contrast to that, once I left him being a coach in hockey, showing a psychoanalyst of all the crazies that I was subjected to after that, and and they all came with a more distinguished pedigree than my dad, as far as, okay, did they play pro or did they coach at a high level and have certification? But I'll tell you what, there's a lot of flawed individuals there, and the ethics and morality went out the window on almost all of them. And really, that's why I ended up leaving sport. It was like black and white. I couldn't believe it. So many people who didn't have those values, and there's no consistency. And if there was consistency, it was consistently bad and negative. And it was very much, you guys know, I mean, I'm going to speculate, I'm a little younger than you guys, but when I grew up, I was in that Graham James era, and I had a lot of friends that went through that. And, it was pretty tough.
Dale Anderson, Henry Oiswood football. We had him. We had Schwartz. Had Ted Rhodes there. We had some very good football coaches there. Nev Anderson. We have good guys, but Dale Anderson just treated everybody so well. He always listened to everybody, everybody's concerns. Everybody got to play at some position on the team. Obviously in football you play more than others. I played both ways, so I never came off the field, so I kind of enjoyed that. But he was just an all-around great guy that knew how to relate to the kids.
Well, I think we've been down this road before. It's kind of hard for me in lots of ways. I feel very fortunate. I've had a lot of good coaches. Like going right back to the first couple of years I played. Like I can think of all the coaches from when I first started when I was like 7, 8 years old. Really, all the way through university. All of my coaches, to use Bob's word, they treated me and the other players in the team. They treated us well, respectfully, and we're sort of in it, I think, for the development of us as players versus, hey, we got to win, we got to win. And the one exception to that, from the time I started through university, was and God rest his soul. In lots of ways, he was a good man. But Bert Templeton, who was one of the winningest coaches ever in major junior hockey, he was he was competitive. Let's start with a positive: competitive, intense, passionate coach. But he was nasty, angry, zero patience, and it was not fun playing for Bert Templeton. And so it's kind of old school coaching, but he's the one that really sticks out in all the coaches I had that was sort of on the flip side of that, really old school coaching. I grew to like him over time, like when I got to know him in later years, and we had some good conversations, but he was not a fun coach to play for. And, it was not enjoyable. And I'm so thankful I didn't sort of run into him earlier when I may have switched sports or something like that. But so I benefited from a lot of coaches that treated me well and respectfully, and right through university. And I loved Herb Brooks. Same thing, treated us well, was respectful of both our knowledge and our abilities. But he was very innovative, and lots of variety at practice. He was terrific to play for, and then Barclay Plager, because he really walked that line between being tough but being fair and respectful. Like he knew when you were struggling, he needed to be your friend and to get you back to where you were. But when things were going well, that's when he could slap you upside the head and try to push you to be a little bit better. So that's a long, complicated answer, which I think I've given before. But
I got a question, Tim. Where did you play for Templeton?
I was Bantam. My second, it was really the first AAA sort of level team I played on in Bantam.
Wow.
In Burlington, Ontario.
Yeah.
And we had a couple other pretty good hockey players on that team. Ron Saddlebar was on the team, long-time first-round draft pick and long-time NHLer. Paul Crowley, who played Major Junior in Sudbury, Ontario. We had some pretty good players, a good team. But yeah, he was tough to play for.
Okay. What you chose to go to university, Ivy League school. So what was your route moving up the ladder, competitive ladder, to get there? Did you play major, junior, or?
No, I was a tall, skinny kid in high school, and I got maybe one letter from Oshawa inviting me to their training camp. But I was kind of focused. I didn't really know if I was going to be a player at that point of any accomplishment. So I chose not to go. I was kind of focused on maybe going to university. And then actually when Bert, he was coaching in Hamilton with the major junior team there, they had a little defenseman shortage his 1 year. And I was playing what would be now sort of tier 2 junior in Burlington. It was junior B team, but I think there were only 10 tier 2 junior teams in all of Canada at that time. But anyway, Bert tried to halfway through the year to get me to go to play in Hamilton, and I said, no, Bert, I'm just gonna probably go and play at university. I don't want to ruin my eligibility and everything. And he didn't take that very well. He was kind of nasty. So anyway, I played AAA in Burlington. Then played for our junior team in Burlington. It was junior B team. and then went to Brown. And didn't I don't know the rest of the story. I didn't get drafted, but there's a whole story there. But people don't want to hear the gory details of my long hockey history. So,
Well, I'm curious because how the hell did you get to play through the NHL door? Because that was in a very competitive era. You know how they weren't privy to college graduates at that time, were they?
no, we're just starting to come in. You know, it's late '70s, so there's some good college players starting to make an impact in the NHL. So it was coming on stream, not the way it is now, but um, so the Rangers offered me I was a free agent. Rangers offered me a contract when I was finished at Brown, and I always like to tell the story that it was one of the last things that John Ferguson did with the Rangers. He got fired about 3 weeks later, and I always wonder, was it directly related? Because it's time for a contract. Morning hockey's done at Wildwood, eh, Tom?
Yeah, just about 2 weeks of it.
Yeah.
The ice sure went quick.
Yeah.
Bob Peters, mine was Bob Peters in Bemidji. I went there like I was a walk-on because I'd been in the seminary studying to be a priest, and I played a half a year of Alberta Junior, and I just saw this guy come back. He was like 25 times better than last time. I said, "Where are you been?" And he said, "Bemidji." I'd never heard of it, and so I wrote a letter to the coach saying who I was, and I had pretty good stats. And he said, "Well, I'd never seen you play, but sounds like you have a chance. If you want to walk on, I'll give you a fair shot." And I went there and I made it. And I couldn't play till the second half of the year because I went to Mount Royal one semester. So, anyways, the first game I played, I think we were playing Manitoba. We played a lot of Canadian teams. The first 34 games I played there, we won. And no overtime, we won them all. Our last two was 4-1 and 6-1 against UFC. And but before we could step on the ice, we didn't get in the ice about October. We had to run 10 miles around the lake. And the guy had set a scoring record the year before, this guy named Austin Wallstead. And around the lake, a couple of his buddies drove him about 2 miles. And the coach found out. I never saw the guy play. He never stepped on the ice. And that was the deal, is that you went there and it was just absolutely, everybody knew that it's kind of like Sutter. You go and you work as hard as you can all the time. And I remember we finally lost really two of our D and our top scorer were in Europe with the U.S. team. And we got clobbered by Lake Superior State. We beat them about 8 times in a row. They beat us 11-0 or 11-1 or something. And we went back to Bemidji, and he never said one word about it. We just had 2 skates every practice because we all knew what our identity was. And we went back and we played there in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, in the national championships the next weekend. And we beat them 6-2 or 7-2 or something like that. But it was just he was kind of like Harry Neal, a one-liner guy. He was really funny. His pregame talks, everybody knew what they're supposed to do and how hard, and our identity was absolutely clear. And I really liked him. And the worst coach was, well, not worst coach, but a guy, I was playing Little League Baseball, and we probably had the best team in the city. And this guy kind of thought it was because of him. So we're in the playoffs, and the referee lost count of the count a few times, his little clicker. And the coach got so mad, he took us off the field, and we withdrew, and we were eliminated because the score. And we don't care. We just want to play. But it was a big ego thing with him. So that's totally other end of the spectrum.
95% of the coaches, their favorite coach was that guy, that kind of ethical, treat you well, respect you. There are some that like the goalie, ones that pushed them and they got results and that from it. But we're trying to sell the ethical piece of doing things the right way. So